Hard Hat's all about showing up to play hard, doing what it takes to win.
If you want to cement legacy, win another.
He's your third center.
You don't want to pump him up too much, but it's hard not to.
This is maybe the most I've ever agreed with you.
Yeah. Thank you, Amit. Bad takes and bold predictions.
Oh, Jimmy.
Let's go.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Hit me with the bad takes. If you want bad takes, folks, you are in the right place.
Oh, boy, are you in the right
Are
place.
you in the right place?
Spoken by our leader, Jimmy. Our BTL, our bad takes leader is Jimmy Toscano.
I'm the king, baby.
Oh, boy.
You don't just rise to the top of the mountain of bad takes overnight, folks. You have to hone your craft at this.
Yeah.
And golly, I have.
Yeah, welcome in. We're going to bring in Noah in a little bit as well. We'll talk about some of the goings-ons around the NBA right now. The headline today, Tibbs fired.
Unreal.
Fired for out-coaching Joe Mazzulla.
Yeah. Fired for dragging a Knicks team that can't shoot.
And has two
Finals.
negative defenders into the conference finals.
Yeah, can't defend.
Not good enough. It's just not good enough, John. Not good enough.
So Tibbs out. We'll preview Thunder's Pacers. The Pacers have a chance of making this a series. Jimmy Toscano has believed back since that was a totally different team altogether.
Sometimes
Jimmy just roots for the laundry. Yeah.
You see the vision, baby.
Jimmy could see it.
Something about Miles Turner. I just knew that he
saw Halliburton coming from a mile away.
Saw it coming. So we'll preview that a little bit, but really what we're here to do is kind of poke fun at each other, skewer some of our bold predictions from earlier in the year and some of our miserable takes. And I'll tell you what, I spent a bit of today asking people, give me some of your bad takes. And everyone's like, I don't think I had any. And all day long, it was just hard to draw them. It's like, I don't remember. Did I have a bad take all year? But we found some. Yeah. We couldn't make this just Bobby's bad takes show. Because one, we don't have the time. And two, it's just not fair. It's not fun that way. Fair. So we're gonna spread it around. Like he's already mad. Look at him. He's mad.
Well,
I'm gonna get him away from me.
Oh, she can't have 2 hours starting now on Bobby. Let's go.
Listen, I'm sure there's a few. The big one I have to own, and everyone knows which one that is.
I don't, Bobby. We don't.
The Knicks sweep. Don't. The Celtics Knicks sweep. Yeah,
that's gonna go down in infamy.
That's its own bracket of bad takes. That's like the name of the section of the bracket.
Yeah. It's been 3 weeks, and I still can't believe how that whole thing went down.
Anyone ever watch The Office?
All the time.
No.
Yeah.
They had The Office. They had a one file drawer of all of The Office complaints and an entire bureau filled with the ones about Dwight, and that'll be like Bobby's bad takes, or like an entire dresser. Like,
well, let's see what the other ones were. I'm curious what the other ones were.
That's all right. We weren't that stupid and that bad. There was quite a few though. So yeah, this show, as always, for those of you who know or who don't know, we might as well tell you, we're part of the CLNS Media Network. And so if you, are new to it, check us out, subscribe to all our YouTube channels. Welcome in for those OGs who've been here for a while, but if you're not, if you don't already subscribe to all of our stuff, why? Why is my question?
Yeah, what the heck?
That's what I mainly want to know. Did Ahmed put up a B-roll? I got so dizzy there for a second. I thought I had switched to a different screen altogether. So check that out for sure. And of course, we should tell you, as always, we are sponsored by and partners with Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get 50 instantly when you play $5. That's all you got to do. Play 5, get 50 instantly with code CLNS on Prize Picks. Prize Picks, run your game. Before we get into our predictions,
too, John, we got a special guest coming later in the week.
Oh
He's a
yeah,
heavyweight
we
for
do.
that.
We do. Let's wait till we have more of an audience. We'll tell people about it later in the show. But in a couple of days, we're gonna have a very awesome guest, and we'll tell you all about it.
Do I
in a
even
little
know
bit,
this?
No, you don't.
We told Jimmy last.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, we don't.
We want to keep it
Wow.
a secret. We want to keep it a secret.
Can't wait to hear.
Yeah,
You don't want me to ruin it.
so-
I get it. I get it.
Yeah, exactly. So while we wait for Noah to jump on and we get into our bad takes and all of that nonsense, let's quickly talk about the news of the day. Tibbs fired by the Knicks. Here's the thing. Well, let's get your takes first, because I wasn't shocked. I feel like a lot of people were shocked, and a lot of people talk about deserve. And I guess I'll just preface it by saying deserve's got nothing to do with it for those Unforgiven fans out there.
Yeah, you've always said that.
It doesn't. It's not a matter of deserve. If you look at it, every coach of the year since 2018 has been fired. It really comes down to a series of factors that oftentimes have nothing to do with whether or not they are good at coaching basketball or no basketball or put their teams in a position to succeed. We still don't know exactly why Tibbs went down. There was a piece yesterday with a little bit of rumblings in the Athletic or New York Times or whatever. Some stuff out there that there was a lot of players only meetings and this and that, but it sounds like dysfunction is probably what did him in.
Yeah, I'm surprised, but you could have seen it coming. They felt ready to do this, and then the playoff run just kept going and going and going. It got to a point where this season's undoubtedly a success here. You probably were slight favorites over Indiana if you're the Knicks there, but that series was anyone's for the taking. I think we all had it going 6-7 games and being pretty close, regardless of which way you swung it. They just don't have the Tibbs roster anymore. And I think you mentioned it, Jimmy, earlier in the playoffs when we were starting to preview that series, is that he just never seemed to get the full potential of this roster, despite them going wicked far in the playoffs. And, I always hate this stuff. Malone, the Grizzlies coach going, guys who are just enormously successful despite not winning championships. And unfortunately, every time it happens, I'm like, what the hell? And then the next guy who comes in seems to raise the ceiling. Cleveland with Bickerstaff, right? Atkinson comes in this year, wins coach of the year, takes him to another level. So you can imagine this happening with the Knicks here, but it's a bummer that the coach always takes the fall, because obviously, Sherrod, there are plenty of players on this team who I think deserve more of the blame than the coach.
Well, yeah, but Bobby, the point that you just made is exactly why, if you're the Knicks, this makes sense. Because when you look at the way this team played, you look at the way Tibbs teams typically play, you pretty much hit the ceiling on what you're going to get out of a Tom Thibodeau coach team. You're not going to get them to play better than they did this year, especially if 2/5 of your starting five are below average defenders, and yet you're still able to get to the conference finals. And so, yeah, I think it sucks that Tibbs got fired, but again, not surprised, because this team went about as far as they were going to go under Tibbs. And, the other thing, too, to take into account is that, remember, there were at least 2 or 3 coaches on the staff that Tibbs had absolutely no say in them being on his staff. So even when you were the head coach and you were trying to play your brand of basketball, there were still voices that you had to include in the conversation that you didn't decide whether they could be part of that.
And we read about that dissension throughout the playoffs,
Right.
the Josh Hart thing. They were really trying to get him out of the lineup, all kinds of different stuff like that. Robinson's minutes. So, the Knicks fans couldn't stand Tibbs for this whole stretch. I was talking to them every day, and they were done with him a long time ago. So that's kind of where I got the vibes of this coming from.
Well, the other thing, the elephant in the room that no one really wants to, I think, wrap their arms around is the fact that your best player, his dad, is on your staff. So how do you get that player to respond and challenge him the way you want to when you're literally having to do it in front of his dad every damn day? That's got to be an awkward situation for Tibbs. And part of me wonders, did Tibbs ever really challenge Jalen Brunson to be a better defender? Did he really get, because he's a great late game scorer, great clutch player of the year, but his defense was crap more times than not. Did Tibbs challenge him to be a better defender, or did he just kind of let it pass because, one, he's a hell of an offensive player, and two, is you have to do it in front of his dad? I don't know.
It's too bad. I mean, it's only not a surprise because this is just the reality of the NBA. It must be the least, secure job in sports is being an NBA head coach. I mean, those guys, like you said earlier, John, coach of the year 1 year, gone the next. Tibbs is not even the best
coach of the year is cursed.
Yeah, right. I mean, you can make the case that multiple coaches better than Tibbs already lost their job before he did this year, So it's just the state of the NBA right now. Coaches are always going to take be the first ones to get canned after a season that may or may not have fallen short from expectations. I think the Knicks started off the year just so poorly that they spent the rest of it just going like 110% trying to get back to where they probably should have been. Sherrod, you know this more than probably most people do, but I mean, Tibbs is just such a basketball junkie, and I'm sure eats, sleeps, breathes basketball. And I'm not saying I don't know this based on anything other than watching, but I do wonder if there's a little bit of a disconnect between him and the players outside of just the X's and O's of the game. And I wonder if he can kind of run his course and kind of just players just kind of get sick. He's almost like the anti-Doc Rivers in that sense, where it's like Doc might be less X's and O's, but maybe guys, like Doc. I'm just using Doc as an example of a coach that Celtics fans know, but there could be some coaches out there that are more people or player coaches, and then some coaches that are more like X's and O's guys. I feel like Tibbs is so X's and O's, so defensive minded, so, play 48 minutes a game, where I think he can wear on players pretty quickly. And so he might not have a ton of defenders at the end of the season. And maybe that ultimately led to his ousting. Is it fair? We can go back and forth on whether or not it's fair. I think, if you look at his wins and losses, you can say it's not fair. But if you look at the Knicks and you say, well, they might be capped out, or they might be as good as they possibly can be with this roster and with this coach. Maybe you start with the coach and you bring in somebody else who can either get these guys to play differently or has some sort of connection to another player or something a vision that the Knicks might have that are going to change things around.
Can I say this too, John? And, I hate to go this direction, but it's a thought that pops into my head, of course, after Celtics Knicks. With all this,
would the Celtics consider? Just kidding.
No, I mean maybe, but that was where I was.
Oh, don't damn it, John! You planted the seed. He's just going to water it.
Ahmed, start the poll right now. Who do you want to be coaching the Celtics this year? Tibbs, Malone, or Joe? Go. Anyway, go ahead, Bobby.
No, I wasn't going that direction, but with all this dissension, all this mess, all this stuff clearly going wrong there, that's what made me say Celtics should have swept the Knicks. The defensive issues, the players not finding their roles, the coach not doing the best job, and you lost to them pretty decisively. And that's just 3 weeks later, you're still sitting here and you can say injuries or this or that. I get it. But man, this team was vulnerable, and you just couldn't take advantage of those 20-point leads you had on them. If you just secure even one of those, I think you're in a good spot in that series. And the Celtics just messed around, and whether it's overconfidence or the game plan or, we're still picking up the pieces of it weeks later, but you should have beaten this team.
Well, but here's the thing, Bobby. Here's the problem with that theory, though. This particular playoff run across the board, we saw 20-point leads evaporate just like that. I believe it was like an NBA record for the most games won by a team that trailed by 20 or more points in the postseason. So the Celtics basically, they follow the trend that went rampant throughout this postseason. I mean, think about Indiana. I mean, the Knicks had some pretty dominant leads over Indiana that they crapped away too. So they're probably feeling the same way that the Celtics are. That, man, if we didn't blow those big leads, we'd be on to the next round. So it's part of the game right now. It speaks to how quickly teams can lose control of a game. It speaks to how incredibly deep and talented teams are, and the level of parity. If you had really a lot of David versus Goliath type matchups, a 20-point lead would become 25-30. But now because of the balance that there's in the NBA, it's not that difficult for a team to get back into a game and eventually win it when they get down by 20, especially if they get down 20 early.
I got to see this poll result.
It's still early. We don't have a lot. People are still filling into the room. My two quick thoughts are, Bobby, just to address your thing about, can't believe you lost to the Knicks. I just don't care that they lost to the Knicks because this team was done. They weren't going to recover from the injuries. Even before Tatum went down, I just don't think you were going farther with half a Brown and a tenth of a Porzingis. It just didn't matter. They were done. So this season ended before it began, sadly, because of injuries. and we really don't have a chance to litigate, what went wrong properly. And the story of this team will be there was something wrong, there was something off. They should have, this and that. They weren't as good as last year. And honestly, if they had full health in the playoffs and they ripped through it and got to the finals and we're a couple days away from playing right now, we would have been like, yeah, it was just a matter of them just flipping the switch. So like, I don't want to settle. I don't want to settle on a narrative with the Celtics. I just think that it didn't really matter if they beat the Knicks or not. They weren't going to go where we thought they might be able to go. As far as Tibbs, I hate the rationale that they gave, and that people say it's this nebulous thing that doesn't mean anything, which is like, he can't get us to the next level. No, your roster can't get you to the next level. Like,
exactly.
They're good, but imperfect. They're flawed, probably too flawed to be able to get you all the way to the top. And that's the problem. And a lot of it just simply comes down to having two of the worst defensive players in the league at two critical positions, and who you need out there offensively, but and you got Towns playing himself off the court at times in favor of
and that's everybody, John. Everybody in the league is going to be in this position now.
They are, but that's what we always said. In today's NBA pace and space sort of league, where you're going to be trying to hunt mismatches and get guys out into space and play defense, when you have two defensive liabilities in your roster and you're starting lineup, it's always going to be a challenge for the teams that don't, or the teams that have won, or the teams that can defend. And you really see it now as, that was the Celtics superpower last year. It is largely the OKC's superpower this year. It's just really, really hard to play against those teams. You're going to get exposed, which means you have a ceiling. So the ceiling is the roster construction. You've got imperfect players. It's hard to hide both of those guys. And I think that they're just going to keep running into that no matter what happens there. Realistically, this is a team that should have gotten smoked in the second round of the playoffs. And if Tibbs got fired, then it wouldn't have been shocking, but he also would have been scapegoated. And I think he's scapegoated here. It just looks worse at face, because they reached the conference finals for the first time in 25 years. And it's like, this is my reward. And I find, and so everybody is shocked by it based off of the result. But my long-standing stance on this, reaching the conference finals or getting knocked out in the second round doesn't mean anything at all. Like, you get to the finals, or you win the finals, or you've done nothing. I don't care. Some of it is matchup based. Some of it is luck. The Knicks season was no more successful having reached the conference finals than if they'd gotten knocked out in the second round. It doesn't matter. I'll take that to my grave. So I don't view it as a huge successful season that they had. The outrage over the firing. It's just, maybe they thought he was an asshole. A guy like Tibbs always has an expiration date. There's only so long you can play for that kind of guy. If you win, it's great. If not, maybe shake things up, see if you can get a little bit more life into the group, and that's what this was. So that's where we're at.
I mean, it comes down to the players, right? I mean, if the players wanted it, they'd be
Yeah.
there.
Yep. I think that's probably where you always look in these situations. Denver, certainly. Yeah. All the places that weirdly fired their coach.
Quickly, before we get into our predictions situation, let's just get our early thoughts here. The game one is 2 days away. Oklahoma City Thunder versus Indiana Pacers. Everybody's freaking out over ratings, and I don't get that, because if you're gonna watch, why as a fan do you give a crap about ratings? I don't. I just care about good basketball. My fear is that for the second straight year, you're going to have lack of buzz in the NBA Finals simply because you don't feel like one team has any chance of beating the other. Even though people manufactured the Dallas could beat the Celtics thing, the reality is that was a foregone conclusion. People tried to talk themselves into it because they were bored. But there was no chance in hell of Dallas ever beating the Celtics last year. And some people feel that the Pacers, it could go down in an ugly, ugly way. So the question is, are we underestimating the Pacers here? And I want to believe, because I like them a lot, but I don't know, man. I think OKC is borderline flawless. I don't know how this goes, but I'm really, really curious to see.
I think we're underestimating the Pacers.
Yeah,
I really do. I look at the fact that not just the fact that they're winning, but the fact that the style of play that they exhibit, I think is going to make this a much more I think they're going to be closer games than people realize. They love to get up and down. They are one of the best when it comes to playing with pace and defending. Now, Oklahoma City is elite in both of those areas, but Oklahoma City doesn't necessarily push the ball the way Indiana does. And if it becomes a track meet, it becomes more of a game that favors the Pacers than it does Oklahoma City. And that's if you're Indiana, that's what you want. To me, the biggest key to this game I see is how does how does Indiana defense limit or certainly contain Shea? Because you look at the games that he makes a significant impact. It's not just buckets. He's getting rebounds and assists. And his sidekick, Jalen Williams, when he's been really good, they've been really good. And when he's kind of sucked, they have kind of sucked. To me, their 1-2 punch is going to determine how this series goes. And this Indiana's credit, our good friend Aaron Nesmith. All of a sudden, he's become like freaking Gary Payton 2.0, the way he's been defending people. And that's going to be a big factor in this series. And obviously Halliburton is great, but Pascal Siakam, I mean, he's played the role of Jaylen Brown, a guy. He's not really your number one, but when you absolutely had to have someone step up in the
he was so brilliant in that last series.
He was that guy. So I still think Oklahoma City is going to win this thing, but it's not going to be a sweep. It's not going to, and I would be surprised if it went 5 games. I expect it to go at least 6.
Yeah, they haven't seen a defense like this, though. And listen, this has been 2 straight series that I've looked at the Pacers and been like, they probably don't have it here. And then they go out and steal a game on the road that they're down big in. They take control of the series early, stun the other team with their pace, and that other team's playing catch-up the rest of the way there. So I don't want to go a 3rd straight series here and say, yeah, the Pacers probably don't have it. And that's why I'll see this thing going longer, like 6 games probably. You know, I saw it as a short series at first, but I can't just keep sitting here and being like, all right, the Pacers have no chance. This is an extremely difficult matchup for them. And in fact, the only way I can actually see them pushing the series longer is by catching the Thunder off guard, overcoming a big lead on the road and early in one of those games, and changing the complexion of the series that way, because the Thunder just have so many different advantages, starting with the defense. They actually play a higher pace than the Pacers do statistically. The switching that they can do and the variety of lineups that they can go to as well. That's stuff we saw even the Knicks bother the Pacers with in a couple of those games that the Knicks took control of there. And the Thunder have pretty much blown everybody out. And when you look at their path here, the only place they got in trouble was a coaching miscue early in that Denver series and some last-second heroics by Aaron Gordon on the other side in a couple of those games. Otherwise, that's not a 7-game series the way it was. So how could you not pick the Thunder here? I mean, they've kicked everybody's ass all year long, and I don't think that ends here.
Yeah, the only this could be a series where Indiana does the Indiana thing and just does a blitzes you out of nowhere, overcomes a deficit, comes in and steals multiple games. And but the losses are like 30-point losses.
Catastrophic.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it actually games wise goes long, but the pace, the OKC drills them 3 or 4 times, in the victories, and that the Pacers are find a way to kind of do their Pacer thing, and they just keep coming and they keep coming and they keep coming and they put up points in bunches and they can erase deficits, and they might catch you off guard or catch you sleeping in a prevent defense sort of situation and steal a game, steal 2 games. Just if you go back and forth, just pound for pound, I don't know that they can keep up with them.
They might have the better offense here, John. Who would you say? But
they do have that's the thing, is you finally are going to see a team, stress OKC in ways that they haven't been. So I'm kind of curious how that goes as well. Just see how, OKC, what they have is the physicality on defense to be able to defend against that. So I do think that that's a bit of a game changer as far as that's concerned. So again, it's not automatic. Did somebody put it in the chat? And I think it's a really good comment. We're talking about, what people are tuning in for. Far more people are tuning in to see the Pacers than the Thunder, I believe. They're more fun. They're more interesting. And I do think that they're going to have
the best shows we've seen in a series in a long time.
A good show. The comebacks, the that situation with the Knicks, just the theatrics, the choking, the style. I think it's going to be fun, and I do think they're going to have an America's team sort of vibe. Jimmy's Sirs, he loves them. We got Sirs merch coming.
Yes, Sirs.
baby. It's Sir's world right now. They are America's team, John. They are
The
America's
Boston
team.
Pacers. I love the Boston Pacers.
I love them.
I was going to say that, and they're kind of, I think, leading the charge in terms of maybe changing the way that some of these NBA teams are going to be built, because they are actually a deep team. And, if their bench shows up the way they have at certain points in this series, it could go in Indy's favor. I mean, honestly, it's not that great. I mean, Vegas would tell you it is crazy.
The Vegas
but,
line's silly.
No, it's gone down. I think the money's coming in on the Pacers.
The starting line was silly.
It went from 800 to 500.
Whether it's Toppin, Nemhard, McConnell, down the line. I mean, I'm just thinking about the guys that aren't, Siakam and Halliburton there. Is it Mathurin? That's how you Mathurin?
Bennett Mathurin, yeah.
You see his last name? Yeah, Mathurin.
Mathurin.
Like, these guys are, Mathurin. These guys have really proven it over a number of games now that they're a legitimate team. Like, they play team basketball. They have fun style of play. They play hard on both ends. And I'll tell you what, I mean, this isn't news, but Indy is a tough place to go in on the road and win. I honestly see Indy really giving Oklahoma City a run for their money here. I really do see it. Everyone's going to be pulling. They are America's team. Sorry, OKC. There's just too much. OKC just doesn't have they just don't have the clout. I'm not saying that SGA isn't worthy and those guys, down the line aren't worthy of being the number one overall seed, because they are. And nobody will be surprised if they do end up winning the series. I think this goes 7, though. I honestly think this series can go 7, and I don't think anyone should really.
Who's the X factor?
Bat an eye at that.
And this is,
Luke.
It's a tough part where the Pacers are stuck a little bit right here. They don't have a ton of perimeter defense, but who did they throw on Jalen Brunson last series just to foul him, just to do crazy stuff?
Nebhart.
Run around. No, Aaron Nesmith.
Nesmith, I knew you were
Run
saying
through
Nesmith.
Nesmith was on him a bit.
Crash into him. Do
So
the
you
Nesmith.
think Nesmith is the SGA guy?
I think Nesmith's going to be the SGA guy.
I wouldn't be surprised either. That's a good point.
If you
That's
got
a
to
good
foul him a
call.
little bit, so be it.
He's going to foul out in
frustrate him.
6 minutes. Nesmith's going to have 3 fouls in the first
He's
quarter.
just going to frustrate him. Yeah.
He's going to frustrate him. He's going to run
Well,
through
if
the
that
screen.
happens,
Nesmith doesn't get the benefit of the doubt on anything.
No.
He's going to get so much foul trouble on
But
SGA.
This is my favorite thing about this series, and we should all agree on it because we all like them. Him having this role on this team, on this run, with where he was leaving Boston, landing on that team, not really having any spot in this league, really. It just warms my heart. I mean, the guy has been awesome. And that moment, man, that's an all-time moment in game one. They're down 20.
Might still do that.
I don't know.
Yeah, what the heck?
Remember I used to get that going on my
You just
face.
get fireworks or a thumbs up.
I'm still this was 2 weeks ago he did this, and I'm still sitting here with my jaw dropped. Him coming in and just hunting 6 threes in a row to flip that game in 3 minutes.
That was
It was
awesome.
one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
It
was
warmed
like
my heart. Yeah.
That we need that needs to be in warm my heart needs to be in next year's tournament.
Yeah, it does.
That's another reason
just thinking about it warms my heart.
That's another reason they're the Boston Pacers, but it's the Joe Sway Thunder, so I don't know which way people want to lean on it. So.
What we get to before jumps in and we do our bold predictions. Another piece of news. I just blinked out for a second. Celtics assistant GM Austin Ainge hired by the Utah Jazz. Should we care?
No.
A little bit.
I mean, I do care, but at the same time, I don't. I'm happy for Austin because because
he was the grown up in the room when Brad joined. He was the guy who stuck, which was interesting because normally a GM comes in and picks his staff, and he's stuck.
Exactly,
which was interesting because he's the you know how this GM thing kind of works,
right?
And now Brad doesn't have that. He's got he's got Zarin, and then I don't know what he's got in there.
It's a small group, and it has been
small group. Yeah.
So
Ainge saw the plans. Ainge saw the offseason plans and said, "Peace."
So
Well,
On the draft
I
side,
mean, but
He's like, you guys don't need me this year.
I mean, that's what I find interesting too here. Now, he got a good job, right? I don't really know. He did like a press conference yesterday where he's talking like he's taking this thing over. So I don't know if, is Danny actually stepping back into retirement now?
No, Danny's reporting to him.
Yeah.
They're reporting. Yeah, that's how this works.
This is early days from when Michael took over and Vito was the acting consigliere, that's kind of what's probably going to happen here. Like he'll be there for the advice.
Danny has really made the Celtics West in Utah.
Except they're horrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So
well, they're about to
other than that, the parallels are
other than that, it's good. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it is what
the
it is.
interesting thing to me here is they didn't see this coming until recently. Like if this was something that was like in the works and was a long time coming and there was this ramp up to him walking out the door, I think it would be much less interesting. But the fact that this seemed to come together pretty quick here, to me, is interesting. Just given all the uncertainty in Boston going into the future, right? And obviously this is a situation where he's going into a bigger role in Utah. But I've just always had questions, ownership level, front office level, going into this reset / mini teardown or full teardown we might see here. How many people are actually going to want to be part of this thing here? And, this is the first move of someone breaking off and going in a different direction here. And I wonder just how much we'll see of this over the next year. Plus, I haven't heard of any other potential losses here, but they just lost another guy in this role in Remy Cofield, who went out to Arkansas. So they lost their two main draft scouting guys.
If you're losing guys to roles that aren't seen as upgrades, that's when I would definitely start to, wonder a little bit. But
he took a GM job.
Yeah, he's taking a better job.
Absolutely.
Like a guy that I'm watching is Sam Cassell. I mean, if Sam takes another assistant coaching job, then that's sign that folks are trying to get off the ship before they think it sinks. Because there's no other reason for Sam to make that lateral move at this point, where he could just sit tight for another year or two.
Well, he's about to lose all his guards, so he might.
Yeah. Anyway, we are going to quickly quick word from our sponsor here. We got to talk about our friends over at Prize Picks, and all about it at this point in time. Best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. Millions of members. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. Pick more or less on at least two players. It's Taco Tuesday, by the way. Promos galore. Check it out. Taco Tuesday. Also check in on Freaky Friday. And for great promotions. Freaky Friday. And you see it on the screen. All you got to do here is sign up and enter that promo code CLNS. There it is. Bang. Play 5, get 50 instantly your account. Once again, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app, Prize Picks. Download it. Code CLNS. Play 5, get 50 instantly. More or less on at least two players. Mix and match your sports. Do whatever. It doesn't matter. Have fun with it. Prize Picks. Run your game. Game. Let's get to it. We're getting into
bad takes.
Bad takes and bold predictions, which is what we're going to do here. Where's my general fake banner? Amit. That one. Where was that?
Amit's on it, man.
At the beginning or the end?
Amit's on it.
If I need it again. Anyway, we're still waiting on Noah to join, so we're going to dig deep on this. Damn it, Noah. We're going to dig deep on this first. We're going to dig deep on this first one. We're going to do our first bold. And I need to preface our bold predictions. Bold predictions are meant to be a little goofy. They're not necessarily meant to be actual predictions, but they're meant to have a germ of truth about what we think about a situation or a person with maybe a splash of hyperbole. So Jimmy Toscano, for example, one time said that Kristaps Porzingis was going to enter like a burning building to save a bunch of kids. But his main point was everyone's going to freaking love Kristaps Porzingis, who's going to be a godsend here in Boston. Yeah, and that was correct. Wrong. Yeah, he was pretty close to right. But since Noah's not here to defend herself, Yeah, we're not going to do this 2 years ago. We're going to start with someone who also cannot defend themselves, and that's Josue Pavone. And Josue Pavone, honestly, possibly had the worst bold prediction of any bold prediction of all when he said that Luke Cornett loses his part-time job to Xavier Tillman.
Oh boy.
It was the other way around. Tillman just lost
we
his
can
job.
drag Josue because he's still covering his team.
He's covering actual basketball, so we can say anything we want about him and not feel bad. But this is of all of the takes that we put out there. And for those who want to go back and reread the article, you can put the link in the chat here for people to look at it and just see what all of the bold predictions are. We're not going to talk about all of it. This was clearly the worst one. I don't know who I feel worse for, X-Man or Josue for this one.
Dude, the guy,
X-Men.
like, I hate to say it, but the guy, like, putting French fries in at McDonald's isn't going to lose his part-time job to Xavier Tillman. Like, that's how bad things were.
I don't know what happened there. It's so confusing to me. Finals minutes to not playing a second after November.
It's like he went into the witness protection program and we didn't even know why.
He struggled a lot with injuries.
Xavier Tillman.
He struggled a lot offensively, and we know how Joe favors offense here. They tried him a lot early in the year, and just didn't work. And then eventually he was gone. So, I mean, he's back next year at a minimum. So I don't know will he actually be back? Will they try to move on from that contract? But I thought that was such a great addition at the deadline 2 years ago, and I was even sitting here at that deadline. Remember, I went up to Luke and was like, "Are you a little worried here? There's a guy coming in here might be trying to push you a little bit." And that did not happen. Maybe he did, though, because Luke reached another level. You giving X some credit for pushing him, John?
Who am I giving credit to for what?
You're giving Tillman a little credit here. You came in to Boston that deadline.
To nudge Luke. I'm
going up to Luke saying, "Oh, is this guy nudging you a little bit?"
He can't. Look,
he didn't, Bobby. That's the thing. He didn't nudge him. In fact, he became like a 6'8" gnome. He just kind of
Luke just had to do actually less. He was like, "Oh, I'm good."
He's like, "This is right, exactly. Like, this is the bar I have to clear. I'm good. Like if anything, right? I got it. I was gonna come in and work really hard, but I definitely don't need to. So
remember, he did work out with Porzingis when he was coming back from the injury at that main practice.
Yeah,
and then John gone to spill the beans about Porzingis' health. Was that Porzingis?
Yeah, he was like, "Oh man, he's fucked up."
Yeah, he was right. So one thing
he's like, he doesn't look good at all, man. I was like, "Oh shit."
Those were his two biggest moments.
Yeah.
He hit that three in the finals too. We'll give him that one.
That was funny. But Noah beat me to the tweet, and she got all the credit for that one. But that's okay. She's just faster fingers. There's nothing I can do there. We'll transition this one to Bobby. Bobby said Luke Cornett's going to start the season at center.
Instead, he ended the season at center. Last game of the year.
So it wasn't a horrible take. But
he's got the side of the season.
That's what Bobby had said there. The Celtics will continue to take it easy on Al, leave him in the bench role. Again, not a terrible take, but that's what it was.
It went under that, John. Interesting. There was another Luke Cornett take under his.
I'm gonna get into that one.
I mean, he didn't.
While we're talking about Luke, we're gonna fold all of these into our Luke convo. We're gonna give Bobby his take. Is it a bad take that Luke would start? No. It wasn't because it was because
he started.
He ended up arguably being, I don't know about their most valuable big, but certainly startable.
Your first center
at the end of the year. I want to put this out here because again, people run wild with perceived narratives, the agendas that they think that we have. My bold prediction was Cornett averages double-digit points in KP's absence, which means I don't know, but before the season began, I said he's playing a role and it's going to work. And my thinking and my process behind it was, it's on the screen here and I'll put it up, is, damn it, Bobby, you win. I've moved on the stance. He's a replacement level third center. I believe he actually might be kind of okay. And the point was, he plays well with Tatum, and they used him as a lob threat. I thought they would find ways to feed him. He found space. He moved around. He did what he needed to do. That pick and roll was a legit weapon.
Yep.
I thought that he would get his. While
He averaged 4.4.
Luke is also the chocolate to Tatum's peanut butter. I don't like that.
It feels kind of icky.
That's a weird one. That's a weird line.
Yeah.
No, man, it's not the chocolate to his peanut butter. It goes well together. It was the basis for the Reese's peanut butter cup advertising campaign for years. Two great tastes that go great together. But you have to be really old to know that.
Yeah, that was
anyway. We welcome in Noah, and Noah, we've yet to pick on you with any bold takes. We've just been talking about how right Bobby was about Luke with some of his predictions, how grievously wrong Josue Pavone was saying that Xavier Tillman was going to overtake Luke Cornett and take all of his playing time. But you're jumping right into the fire, Noah.
Noah had a lot of bad takes.
Oh wow!
Wow, Bobby!
Wow,
damn, Bobby.
We dug them up.
Ouch!
Damn.
They were there.
How much research did we do here? Like, are we going through like old articles, or is it just the CLNS thing?
Everything.
This is our CLNS bold predictions, plus generally speaking, bad takes that we've had throughout the year. And bad takes, I've had a few. But Noah wrote this on CLNS Media. Jordan Walsh established himself as a real rotation player in year 2.
Okay, but to be fair, he was a rotation player in November. Do you guys remember?
Yeah, November.
Or was that
Okay.
October?
He eats the O'Shea Brissett's V. Mihailuk minutes. That's hard.
He didn't even do that.
They didn't do that.
Those minutes didn't really exist.
They might have eaten. They might those minutes might have eaten him.
He ate like, was it? The
I should have gone tame like Bobby. Spent more time in Boston.
No, that's why they're supposed to be bold. But I'll ask you
He
this:
ate Massaminos after the game. That's about it.
again, whether it was bold or whether you actually believed it, probably closer to believed it. What's your vibe now? Not on it being a bad take. It was a bad take. That's why we're putting it out there. But what's your vibe on it now? Can he be resurrected? And might you dare make a prediction like this anytime in the future?
I mean, there is a potential roster. If the roster looks a certain way,
might have to
next year. I might have no choice.
Yeah.
But I can just copy and paste that one down. But he definitely fell out of the rotation. I think he got opportunities like around November.
Couldn't
And
shoot.
like he just couldn't break through with those opportunities. Like I think about the Charlotte games. Like there was a stretch there in November, like that month was critical for him. And I think Joe kind of moved on to the next potential guy. It felt like it didn't really work with him. So if he hits a few of those threes, like I don't know, maybe he does. But I think he has an opportunity again. Like he's still really young. That's
He's 21. I'd bring him back.
That's young.
That's the question. Whether you let him go for the 200,000 or bring him back. I'd give him another chance. But the lack of offensive involvement to me, some of it's his own fault, not being able to make shots. Some of it, I wish they'd use him in more creative ways. And we can get to Joe a little bit later. But that's going to be a big thing for him next year with some of these guys. Just trying to involve them more. I don't think Walsh is a lost cause, Jimmy. Do you?
I'm not the guy to ask, Bobby. I'm not the guy to ask. I don't have the highest.
I will say,
I'm not going to say lost cause, but what's that?
I just put in this. This is in the chat. I will say I have been haunted by this one because I did say when we were discussing Jaylen Brown's knee before the playoffs, I said it like 3 times, like somebody could get much more hurt, and it's going to be. And I felt bad saying it at the time, but it did age really well, unfortunately. I mean, like, as soon as it happened, I was like,
this is a bad take show.
This is a bad take show. Come on. No credit taking on this one.
I don't want credit for that. I just
so you jinxed them? Is that what you're trying to say?
I don't know. I've been feeling bad about it. So somebody else had receipts. I just felt like I had to.
The Celtics lost because of you.
The thing about Walsh is that he can be probably a deep rotation guy, but he has to be able to hit the open shot. And that ultimately was his downfall this year, is that when he got opportunities, he either didn't shoot or missed the shot. It really came down to that. And it's at some point he was just a guy out there, and you really could have just put any guy out there at that point. And that's kind of
I hate when that's the whole ball game, though. We used to say that with Neesmith. Did he make 2 shots or did he miss 2 shots?
that was his role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It stinks,
Yeah.
though. You don't get a ton of chance to gain any rhythm, but you got a couple chances to play. You weren't going to get a ton on
I
this
mean,
team. no
we can
matter
all
what.
agree that Joe completely just gave up on the bench the last
Yep.
third of the year and all the way into the playoffs. And whether right or wrong, he lost faith in pretty much every single one of those stay ready crew players.
Yeah.
All of them, really.
All right, let's roll through. Let's continue rolling through some of these. Jimmy Toscano, Knicks finish at the top of the Eastern Conference.
One age decently.
Not incorrect. I mean, very incorrect. But
It was wrong.
but they outlasted the top 2 teams in the Eastern Conference. So by
Yeah.
default, almost they did come out on top of both the Celtics and the Pacers, who finished Celtics and the Cavaliers, who finished ahead of them. So Jimmy believed in the Knicks. And they were a fashionable pick, but he had them over the Celtics. That didn't happen. They finished a good bit behind them as number 3, but they beat them. So this is kind of, sort of not totally wrong.
Yeah, it wasn't totally wrong.
The rationale behind it was more that the Celtics would stumble with KP, right?
I thought Knicks would come out of the gates hot. They didn't. They ended up playing catch up for
This
most.
whole prediction died on night 1, by the way.
Yeah.
They got lit up.
I pretty much said, whoops, like right off the bat on that one. And I salvaged a little bit of it with the way that they ended up obviously beating the Celtics in the playoffs there and going on a little bit of a run. Had they taken the Pacers down, I would have been using this. I would have definitely said that this was a win for me. But ultimately, they underperformed, I think, definitely, at least in terms of the regular season. I thought they were going to be a better regular season team, but they just weren't. They had a really bad start to things, and by the time they got it going, I think Tibbs just ran his guys in. He's known to do it, but he kind of ran his guys into the ground a little bit, so that's what happens.
Yeah, it's hard to. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to finish as the best team and when you play 6.5 guys for most.
I
of the
didn't know
season.
Cleveland was going to be running, the show the way they were. I mean, nobody knew that in the regular season. They just jumped out to that lead and they never gave it back.
I wish I showed them more love
Cleveland.
because I love that roster, and then they lost in devastating fashion. So
Mhm.
still don't know what to make of their season either.
They did. I will throw out a couple more out here.
Bing bong. That was wrong.
Joe Mazzulla wins Coach of the Year. Once again, wrong. But also
Where'd he finish?
narratives.
Let me see.
Didn't get a vote.
Really?
He didn't even get a vote, I don't think.
That's great. If Joe Mazzulla wants job security, not getting Coach of the Year is great.
My rationale for this
Fair
was
point.
a lot of times I feel coaches get recognized for last year's success. So I thought if Joe and the Celtics steamrolled through, that they might be like, all right, this guy has a good idea what's going on, even though it usually goes to the overachiever of the year award is oftentimes who gets it. But I thought
Most
I didn't know that
team.
I didn't know that any team was going to emerge like that. So I thought Joe might get it based off of, the full body of work.
We're going to repeat again as like,
they're like, we didn't give him enough credit last year, so we're giving it to him
Right.
this year. Like we're giving, right. It doesn't matter. I was going to make a ridiculous reference. I'm not gonna.
He's scared now. Reese scared him.
It wasn't even an old one. I was just a nerd one.
You're right, Jimmy. He did not receive a vote.
Yeah.
JJ Redick got a vote.
I do find
Good
that
for him.
kind of interesting that he didn't even for whatever reason, he doesn't seem to have a ton of respect across. Like
Oh,
he didn't get a single vote.
He doesn't
lot
have
of-
more love in the media, Jimmy.
It's the media, though.
I'm just saying. But I don't think
Yeah.
opposing media would have any reason not to like him that much. I mean, what do they know, really?
Well,
Yeah.
I think part of it, Jimmy, has to do with the fact of the type of roster that he has.
Right. No, I get it.
And OKC has a great roster too, and their coaches, as he's gotten the award, but they have a really young
Mhm.
roster. Whereas Joe Mazzulla has a roster full of guys that were in their
Established
prime,
players,
ready to So he's not going to get any credit for that because he's just the perception is that he's just a caretaker.
And that's why if somebody brings up the idea that Mazzulla should or should not, it shouldn't be that crazy of a conversation. And I think
By the
some
way,
people
his regular
think
season
it
was
is.
awesome. I have a problem with his playoffs.
I also think if you had a couple more spots, he probably would have gotten some votes. Like a lot of times when it comes to like, oh, this guy didn't even get any MVP votes, and it's like because he was like the number 6 guy. You know, I think Joe probably it goes what three deep.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think there was just like a couple guys that were just classic cases. Like Bickerstaff was a classic case to get voted.
Yeah, I mean, you had
great.
right. Yeah.
Right.
So
No, I
I
get it.
think he does get respect around the league. Like I think people do think he's a really good coach, generally speaking. At the end of the season, if you had a little bit of a longer list there, he probably would have been in the mix. I don't think this was a bad take.
I mean, he's probably
And again, it wasn't the take as
It
much
is
as
kind of a meaningless award, though.
it's a meaningless award, but I put it out there to show that I had turned
Atkinson did good stuff.
I
this year.
had
thought
changed
he
my
earned it.
perception of Joe Mazzulla from beginning of last year through
Well, what about
there.
now?
But yeah, obviously, I'm still closer to the defending Joe camp than the burying Joe camp. I think it's insane that people are like, fire him. He's obviously the problem. I think next year is going to tell you everything you need to know about Joe, because you can say, look, I think critics have. I think most people who say fire Joe have no idea why they want to fire Joe. They just say it because they think he's a little weird and they cling to things like too many threes and stubborn and all of this stuff. And I think it's low level stuff, honestly. But I also think some of them have good points.
That's not
as well.
those aren't the only. Yeah, exactly.
They're
Those
not.
aren't the
I
only
think some
reasons.
people make some strong points, and I do think when you look at it, is ultimately when you're looking at the end, and Bobby's going back. Bobby had just mentioned, I don't like the playoffs. He has twice lost as a heavy favorite in 3 years, and once won as a heavy favorite. That's
I
not
said
an
it
awesome,
at the time, John.
That's not an awesome track record. Losing
I
as
put
a
him
heavy
at the
favorite
top of my
twice
next series blame pie.
is bad, and so that's a fair take.
And
I think.
if you're watching this Pacers team too, and you see the way that they play basketball and especially offensively, and then you watch like watch a Celtics Knicks game. I mean, it's night and day. Like some of the sets that Indy's getting in, and the way that they're just playing inspired basketball. So, I mean, at some point, you do have to look at those things as well, and just look at how awful was it to watch that Celtics team. You know, down the stretch there offensively, it was just so uninspiring and so boring.
I thought it dipped as a whole for a lot of this year too. We mentioned it in bits and pieces.
I mean, it got very heavy and one-sided to the.
I never really understood, Noah, watching this year, why the offense devolved a little bit. Like a lot of it was shooting going down there a little bit, but they also just didn't run as much as we saw the previous year. And that more than anything, I really have a tough time wrapping my head around if we're asking like, why did X, Y, and Z happen this year? Yeah. Why did this offense devolve in terms of play calling the way it did this year? I don't really understand it. Did they just get obsessed with hunting mismatches?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think this kind of Judah put it here. I think this is one of the knocks on Joe. I think he kind of sticks with his thing maybe too long sometimes, and you don't have that luxury in the playoffs as much. Right. And adjusting late or not adjusting at all in one game costs you in February doesn't mean anything. In May it costs you a series. So that's the stakes are raised.
Oh, they were so slow.
Yeah. And so that's definitely a problem. It's
and again, I thought his regular season was mostly great.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, mostly great. So let's share some credit. I will say Noah, the biggest Peyton Pritchard fan in the room, was cautious with her Peyton Pritchard prediction, saying that he averages double-figure points this year, whereas Bobby and Sherrod took it further and said the ridiculous thing that he would win sixth man of the year. Ridiculous prediction.
And
Never could he win. So did Josue. So many of you said it. I was like, can somebody say something different? Because this one is A, dumb, and B, redundant. And
you bullied Josue out of it.
He did.
I bullied Josue out of being
totally
right about something.
And I said, Josue, stick to it. No, maybe John's right. Maybe John's right.
John said no. John said it's dumb.
Never mind.
By the way, Josue didn't pick the Thunder in his prediction. He should have.
No. Yeah, exactly.
So you guys, again,
you guys are nailed that one.
My opinion at the beginning of the year was he's just not gonna he's not even their sixth man. And he's not just simply not gonna play enough minutes to be able to put up the type of numbers that a sixth man of the year gets. And that was wrong. He did. And part of it had to do with some injuries and thrust into it. But the other was just.
Now we got a tease next year.
He was better. He was just better this year.
I think Noah's going to try to avenge herself next year, though, because I think next October when we roll these out,
All-Star.
we're going to see Peyton
All-Star.
Pritchard All-Star.
No question.
Are we, Noah?
Noah's going go big or
He's
go
going all
Noah.
in.
Yeah.
She all the chips sent to the table.
I cannot believe that there's two people here that can get more credit for believing in Pritchard than me,
You
and it's my
came up
fault for
short.
being conservative.
How did that
Exactly.
happen,
Like, I will
Noah?
never let that happen again. Starting in October, you will see. I'll
You
never
can
do
have that
again.
one.
Peyton Pritchard will be named president. Like you got to go all the way with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I honestly, my rationale was the same as yours, John. Like, I didn't see a world where he had the minutes, and honestly, like, he wasn't the sixth man the year prior. Like, he barely played in the finals. So I thought to myself, like, it's going to take like a lot to go wrong for the team, which honestly it kind of did. Like, there were a lot of injuries, but if you had told me he's sixth man of the year, I would have thought that things had gone more awry as far as availability goes than it actually did. But next year, we already know things have gone awry. So,
You know who I really, I'll say this, you know, when I was looking at some people's predictions and stuff they said this year, I couldn't find a lot for you, Jimmy. I feel like you were either low key with stuff you said this year or right. I don't know which one.
I think I was just kind of right, you know, about, you know, like,
Yeah.
I don't want to brag. This isn't about me. It's about
I'm calling you all out. Can I call you all out collectively?
Sure.
Because I think all four you said this at one point. You all said the Celtics were better this year than last year.
Bobby, there's a reason why I direct traffic. We're not there yet. We're still in our bold predictions.
I got too
Bobby's-
excited. I want to start calling people out.
We're not there yet.
The predictions, yeah.
Can we skip to that one?
First
I
do
was
the
more
bold
excited for that
predictions,
one than anyone
Then
else.
we do the bad takes. We're gonna
Okay,
get there. I
okay.
promise. I
right.
promise. I swear. We have a few more bold predictions to get to, and then you can let us all have it. Okay?
You were
I
you were
promise.
letting me know how wrong I was at the beginning of the show about
I
everything.
know. Trust me. You're gonna
Yeah,
get your pound of
that's
flesh out of this.
Every show, Bobby.
Yeah. So I'm gonna pair.
do I still have that one in the bag?
Which one?
We got it. We're getting there. We're almost there. We got a couple more. Noah throws out there. Jaylen Brown leads the Celtics in scoring, emerges as a top 5 scorer in the NBA.
Oh, that was a rough one.
Ooh.
Ouch.
One you like.
That was a bad take.
Someone accused
He's not even a top 5 scorer named Jalen, I don't think.
someone accused me and
I'm
Noah.
pushing this to next year.
No one forgot that one. Your face was like, oh.
I should have pulled up that document before this show.
I said that. Oh my god.
Someone on
Yikes.
Twitter
I still remember
accused
writing
me and Noah of getting paid off by Jalen the way we've been talking positively about him.
Well, he's got money to spend.
He does have a couple coins to spend.
Yeah.
Although those $200 shoes that he's selling.
Yeah, he's about yeah. Anyone you guys must be getting one of those shipped. No, you must be getting one shipped to you. Let's be real.
I've been wearing one. I already got mine shipped.
Oh my god, I knew it.
So they were right
They're
about
actually
Noah.
very comfortable. I did put out, if anybody wants to send me their shoes, I'd be happy to review them. No other suitors. So I have one pair of basketball shoes that I did. They are actually very comfortable. Bobby knows I've been wearing
Where
them.
are they? Go grab. I want to see what these things look like.
Yeah.
I'm going to go right now.
They look nice.
I can go get them.
You know what
go
shoes
grab
I've been wearing, John?
What are we doing? Commercials, Jimmy?
I want to see this sneaker. Yeah, we are.
Okay.
I'm not
There's
wearing
this
the
thing called
Jalen's.
There's this thing called the internet, Jimmy, where you can see them.
Well, she's got the real one right there. Here we go. Yeah. Just got off the court with them. See what we got here. What size shoe, Noah? What size are you rocking these days? Okay,
See,
you get
Those are like a 9.
the gray
The
color.
Twitter-
What
the
do we
Twitter
get, gray
user
and
was
orange?
Yeah, I know. This is like, you brought up the topic of he's paying us off and I show the shoes.
Yeah,
I told you,
unbelievable.
right? But
Are
I'm
they
not wearing.
The shoes will not absolve you of this take.
No,
They
no Jalen's over here.
This was a bad
All
one.
Giannis's.
The rationale behind this was his.
I can explain.
His leap. Yeah. What was it?
Well, I think part of it was I thought Tatum was going to struggle a little bit early on because of how what we saw in the Olympics. And so I thought to myself, okay, Jalen's coming off all this momentum where he had like a very relaxed summer and he didn't have to deal with much criticism. And then Tatum is dealing with like the Olympics and the stress about it. I was like, I feel like he's going to come out a little bit tight because of the offseason that he had. And then maybe Jalen's going to be more of a scorer. And I also saw like obviously Tatum's playmaking leak was so in effect in that playoff series that in the final series and in that whole playoff run that I was like, maybe Tatum's going to be like more of a playmaker here. But Jalen did not make that leap. So it was a bad take.
No, he
No, a
didn't.
small step back from this year, but he was banged up. And
But Noah, you could recycle this one for next year.
I'm gonna push this one. Yeah, I'll try again.
Right,
That
you're
would
you're just a little early on this.
I just submitted it too early. Yeah.
Yeah. This is like my fantasy football drafting. I'm always a year early on the
Yeah,
breakouts.
you picked the rookie running backs like a year.
Yeah. So I'm gonna throw one of mine out there.
Big of you.
Tatum's scoring average plummets to lowest point in 5 years. So it didn't plummet. This was almost right. It didn't plummet, but it was a tick off, and it was his lowest in 4 years. But the rationale behind
his year
this
was
one,
so weird.
the rationale behind this one was that he was going to become finally that version of Jason Tatum that I've been kind of like, the mythical version of Tatum, blah, 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 24, 10, and 7 sort of thing. It wasn't crazy. The problem was he did do the other stuff better. He passed better this year. He just still shot too much. Not just too much. He still shot the same shots. And his field goal attempts actually went up just by a field goal attempt, which isn't shocking with Porzingis down because they didn't have to share the ball as much as they had to before, and Brown missed some time. So it wasn't like he shot 22, 23 field goals a game, but he went from 19 to 20. He just wasn't as efficient this year scoring. And again, I'm still going to keep going back to, at one point or another, I want to see that Tatum diet, of like, get down back to, I think 18, 19 is fine. Just eliminating a few of those bad shots and just continuing to share the ball, give the game what it needs. I felt like he did it at times, but not enough this year. But the rationale behind it was he would be a better all-around player, not that he was going to have a worse year. And so what do you guys think?
His year to me was so weird.
It was weird. He was a better all-around player, was he not?
He was. He
was having a tough time scoring.
He got to New Year's Eve at 37 from 3. He had the great hot start, and we're like, wow, the shot's fixed, blah, blah, blah. And then it just slowly tailed off as the year went on and on and on. And the passing leap happened. I thought that was what impressed me most this year among his game and all the things he did. But the shot, March on, he ends up shooting 30% flat from 3. And it just got worse and worse as the stretch run came on. So much of it was shot selection, John, like you said. When you see him again, you want to see his game adjust a little bit away from some of the more difficult shots that undermine his efficiency a little bit. Because otherwise, I thought he was awesome this year. And that shooting decline actually brought him pretty close to what you were talking about in this prediction here, that, his scoring would plummet. And he got off to such a great start that it bummed me out that that's how the year ended for him, and that's where the numbers landed, because I don't think it reflected how great he was this year. It just tanked.
No, what do you think? Was this a better version of Jason Tatum this year?
Definitely. Yeah. And I think I'm all for efficiency. And like I actually am somebody that like values that quite a bit. But I think his efficiency numbers didn't reflect like his impact on the game this season versus previous seasons where he was slightly more efficient. Like he just wasn't as good, honestly. Like I thought his late game decision making was better. I thought his passing was obviously significantly better, but a lot of times it's not going to always get captured in the stats. Even his assist numbers are not crazy high because the way that he's used is not like go rack up 14 assists. Like those stats are flawed. So I actually thought that he had a really strong regular season. It's just every one of these games where I'm like, tonight's the night where he's going to go 14 of 18, he ends up taking like 3 heat checks, and that's what ruins that stat line. So it's just he's incapable this is like a random reference, but like I don't know if you guys follow Paige Beckers at all, but she has a lot of games where she finishes like 8 of 10 from the field.
Yeah.
And I'm always thinking to myself, like, it's actually remarkable that she stopped at 10 shots. That's why she's such an efficient player. But it's hard for stars to do that. And
Durant does that too, yeah.
Durant, there's some guys that do it, but he is not one of those guys, and that's why even the games where it felt like he's on a heater, like you look at the game where he got injured, his stat line wasn't insane by the end as far as shooting numbers go, but obviously if you watch that game, he was on a massive heater. Like you don't have to look at the box score to know that.
Yeah.
But it just seems like he always kind of goes a little far with it.
But it's less, and again, it's more like, again, to me, it's that mindset of, I always said this about Tatum. I do think a lot of people are like, he's a stat hound and he wants the glory. And I never believed that. I always just thought that the way he grew up playing basketball and the player he idolized most and the way that he thinks he's supposed to impact the game is through scoring. So when the team needs something, he thinks I need to give it to them through scoring. And that's his default. And he kind of always goes back to it, which is like, let me just cook instead of what do we need? What can we do right now? I always feel like he's stuck trying to decide, should I be this? Should I be that? Should I press it? Should I look for my shot? Because again, how many times have been like, he play a first quarter stint and take one field goal. And we're like, is this guy going to assert himself or what? And so it's still figuring out, like, just letting it flow in a way that is effortless in like recognizing, making the right reads, doing that. At times I feel he's doing it. At times I feel he's trying to figure out, what am I supposed to be right now? So there is a weird inconsistency to, how he plays, despite the fact that he's actually remarkably consistent, no matter what you look up into
he
the
reached
day.
a high level. And that's
he got much better with the playmaking this year for sure.
And that's going to be what he has to lean on. It's interesting too.
But I just think he's got to drop the hero ball because he's actually not that great a scorer in terms of like his one-on-one ability, to just kind of get buckets. He's not elite. He's not bad.
That's what killed him in the Knicks series.
He's not an elite bucket getter. So he really just needs to be a little bit more selective. And I really do think that assist number could go up to 7 or 8 without, I'm not making it all about assists, without him changing a ton. I really do feel like he's close. Yeah.
I wonder if his, coming back from this injury is going to force him to play that way a little bit more.
I don't think there's any doubt.
So you might get what you want, but just in a different way, John, because the last thing I want to see is him putting up 20 contested jumpers, a game now, because he can't get open and he doesn't want to drive.
Exactly. All right, let's switch from our bold predictions, which again were fun preseason sort of things, to some horrible takes we had during the season. And we'll give Bobby his little victory lap here, and we'll start with it. Both Noah and I said the Celtics are better than last year's team. One of the reasons we said this is because Brown said it one time, and it was an interesting kind of, Jalen said it after a game, and it created a talking point, and we kicked it around on the show. And I know at least Noah and I had said, I do think so. We do think so. I'm not sure where everyone else was on it, but we absolutely said it, and we'll own it. I still don't know that it's wrong. I still don't know.
I thought they were.
Come on. They lost in the second round.
I thought they were, but I'm saying before, obviously, hindsight is 2020, but without hindsight, I thought they were better.
I'm not an excuse maker. I think it was all injuries. Like, we will never get
all injuries.
We will never get a full account of what this Celtics team actually was, because you're playing with Brown at 50% and Porzingis at 10%. It's impossible to know what full health, how much that would have changed. Everything we think that they were bad at or did wrong might have completely disappeared. So they might have steamrolled the Knicks, as you thought they were going to, even with their injuries, and just be sitting here ready to play in the NBA Finals, and we're all hanging out in OKC right now. And it's a different story altogether, and we're not having any questions about it. So I don't know that they weren't. I just think their season was derailed in such a grisly way, and now that the offseason outlook is so bleak, we're just looking at it in such a dark way. I still don't know that they weren't better or had the potential to be better because of, Noah, what was the reasoning behind it? Pritchard there were improvements,
stuff
over
you didn't see in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think the improvement of a couple of rotation players, it felt like they had more ways to win than they had in the previous season.
Yeah.
I will say, like, Porzingis and how he was playing upon his return was like part of that. Like, he looked really good. And then obviously he was just nothing comparable to who he was during the season. But just as I reflect on this, I actually don't think they were better than last year's team, even without the injuries. One, because that losing stretch where they were losing, like they were like a 500 team for whatever it was,
January.
like 7 weeks. Yeah, that stretch, like I do think that I pushed through it, and like they pushed through it and they got out of it and they played a lot better later on. But there were some shades of what we saw in the playoffs that were reminiscent of that stretch. So like in hindsight, I don't think I chalk it up to like they just struggled for a few weeks and it meant absolutely nothing, the way that I felt like in April before the playoffs began. So yeah, I think that they were not a better team as last year, even though like I found ways to view it that way because of the individual growth of specific players and their versatility in the double big lineup. Like it just felt like they had more leeway.
I acknowledged all that stuff when you guys were saying it, and I think it was valid. Those as potential reasons you could have thought they were better, but then to just not see it in the playoffs, I'm still baffled by that. You know, they didn't tap into that stuff they built during the regular season in the playoffs. They got tight, over-reliant on the stars, and then the injury struck, as John said. So I think they put themselves in some bad positions, and then the injuries exacerbated it. Again, a lot of the
I just give it an incomplete. They might not have been better. It's really hard to say. It's really hard to say because the bad habits might have crept in simply because they were. They
what about the fact that when they were healthy, John? You already know what the offensive rating was with the starters in there. So there were some signs that they were not clicking the way they were supposed to. So I don't know.
Defensive lapses.
I have no idea what I said on the show. It sounds like I didn't make a bold prediction on it or a take, but I'm with Noah on this. I think it was that stretch in January where I said like, I don't like what I see right now. And like, this just kind of tells me that this team is not where they were last year.
And this stuff does work this way, right? Like it might've been true that they were better and it just didn't work out in the end. Like that does happen in this league in sports, but you do have to go off the results sometimes. And this fell well short of what we thought it might've been, which was even more dominant than last year, but you knew it was going to be harder, the path. And listen, there's an injury side to it and there's a disappointment side to it. And I think I weigh those equally.
And I will say the one thing I've been thinking a lot about this offseason is that when you look at the 2024 run, they never faced a team that had really good wing defenders. You look at the Pacers and the way that Tatum and Brown put up crazy numbers against that team. Like the Pacers were not equipped to guard the Celtics. That's that playoff run. The Mavs were not equipped to guard Tatum and Brown. Like Cleveland. And so part of it is like I'm not doing the whole like they had an easy run because it's not that it was easy or guys were injured, but they had favorable matchups when you think about what they needed as far as Tatum and Brown to not fall into that like, okay, that they're switching. What are we going to do? Like that same thing that has transpired so many times in the postseason. This year they faced the Magic that had great, they had very much the ability to defend that, and then the Knicks, who played really good defense for the most part of that series and had guys that they acquired specifically for that. So it's hard to also compare the playoff runs because I do think those matchups were a lot more favorable to Boston than this year's, and they still should have beat the Knicks. Like, no, I'm not making any excuses for them, but it is like apples to oranges a little bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of dovetail off of this one with another bad one that I was saying all year long. Celtics' first meaningful game will be game 1 of the conference championship. Again, I did not
zero meaningful games all year.
Yeah, nothing mattered. The first game that really matters, game 1 of the conference championship. I thought presumably against the Cavs if they were able to get there, and that was it. They would cakewalk through all the way through. Again, I think they do, and they could, and they would, and they should have beat the Knicks even banged up, but didn't happen. There's
even round 1.
Bumps on the way.
There was a scary game in Orlando.
Yeah, there's bumps along the way. So this is kind of both of it. We're going to take a shot at Jimmy Toscano here, who wrote it in his bold predictions too. But Jimmy, Phoenix Suns are going to be the team to beat in the West.
Yeah, about that prediction.
Wow.
It started
so
off
much for not having bad takes.
You want to talk about injuries, though? This Suns team got hit with major injuries relatively early on.
That is not why they were bad.
I don't know.
They started off on fire. They started off pretty good.
That's the worst. No.
That might be the worst take we've seen tonight.
AD, Beal, all those guys got hurt. Listen, I'll eat that one. That was a bad prediction. The reason why I did it is because I did it the year before, and I'm stubborn, and I wanted to make good on that prediction, so I just doubled down on it, and it came back to bite me. So I'm officially out on the Suns. Yeah, maybe don't. I'm officially out on the Suns.
You think it's a safe bet?
I'm officially out. You won't hear me pick the Suns next year.
That's a bold one.
Yeah,
I'm out on the Suns.
I might be out on KD.
The Suns might be the greatest failure in the history of sports relative to what they spent on the team and how much capital they spent to acquire that team. That might be the greatest front office failure in the history of sports.
This might be a bit of a hot take too, but I'm kind of like I'm almost out on KD, and I think that when it's all said and done, I think that people might think that he was a little bit overrated in the end.
That's insane.
No,
I'll always love him.
I'm just saying, like,
KD is every bit.
When you look at his track record, though, at the end of his career, if he doesn't win another one, I just think that there will be those people out there, and they will have the case because he's gone to a lot of teams and hasn't won. And the team that he did win on, he kind of jumped on the backs of. So I just think you're gonna have people out there, and they're not necessarily wrong. They you can look at the numbers, but sure, but if you want to talk about championships and banners and yada 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 with certain players, you should do it for all the players. Be consistent. So he couldn't win in OKC, couldn't win in Brooklyn, couldn't win in Phoenix. So I mean, at some point, I know he doesn't really give a shit because he's only on Twitter, just whatever.
You should tweet him, Jimmy.
Dude, his post Achilles tear numbers at his age are freaking bananas.
Yeah, they're good. I'm not saying he's not a good player, but I just think the overall
continuing to play at a ridiculously elite level.
I wouldn't say ridiculously elite. I wouldn't say ridiculously.
Oh my God,
the defense tailed off some, but yeah, offensively he could just always get a shot off.
He could do every.
I think his legacy will actually age better than we think.
He's one of the great.
He's a great player. I just think you're going to come down and say, wow, like he just kind of couldn't do it. He couldn't take a team there.
Out of everybody in the league, he's the guy I wish ended up in Boston the most. And there's so many opportunities.
There was a time where that was a possibility, but
three times.
All
Three
right.
times.
We skewered Joe Sway over Xavier Tillman take. We're going to take a shot at Sherrod Blakely, who did believe that Torrey Craig would make an impact in the playoffs here.
Did anyone else?
Yeah. That one hurt.
I think a couple of us thought he might.
Maybe he should.
When did he even?
That one left the mark.
He had that great game where we all got a little excited.
When?
That was it. It was like the second game he played here.
He was like average. He had like an.
It wasn't the
game.
James Springer game, but it was good.
No,
exactly.
We got to pull that up,
Don't
though.
do it to me.
Yeah, that
Springer.
was Torrey Craig gonna be back.
There was a moment where I was genuinely convinced Springer was the answer to all of the Celtics' problems.
Because I didn't want to go too
wrong.
hard at you here, I left the Springer hype train off of the bad takes here, and I went with Sherrod Torrey Craig.
They're still wrong on him. Every single NBA executive.
Springer.
They'll get it.
I thought Craig could help him, and he could not. Other than great tile waiver, he's really good at that.
The celebrations were so
celebrations
great.
on the sideline, but I do I care?
Just didn't get us. Didn't again. Another like
his son.
Stay ready guy.
Celebrator too.
Similar to Walsh, like couldn't make the most of the minutes that he got, and then he just didn't get them anymore.
Yeah,
I think he didn't really get much of an opportunity. Like Walsh got a string of games where he was in the rotation. Torrey never really got that.
He didn't get that many, but he did get a couple games, and then he just kind of got buried.
First game in Boston,
But
he had
the aura.
2 threes, 6 points, and we got excited.
I'll say he definitely led the team in aura.
Yeah, his swag is real. He definitely had swagger.
For sure.
It was real.
Great outfits.
But Megan Thee Stallion is you better have swag. You better have something.
It took us that long to mention her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was waiting for one of you to mention her, but since no one would.
Well, I never saw her at a game.
Around, so I didn't.
I know. I was sad.
I was too. I was too. Very sad about that.
Great artist.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So Bobby took his cracks at us. We're gonna throw out a couple of Bobby Manning.
Okay.
Celtics.
You know what? I was waiting for it.
This is
This
borderline
was-
apology cam bad taste.
No.
Yeah.
I'll do it. This was the worst
this
take
may
of
have
my
been-
career.
I tend to agree with you, Bobby.
Career altering.
This is the worst take of my career. And you know what? I still don't understand where it all went so wrong. They had
It all
this
went
team.
wrong when you said this, Bobby. I
Yeah.
remember how I felt
You are
moment
the
you
reason.
said it's going to be a sweep, and I was like, they might lose.
That
Why
was
didn't you say that then,
literally
Noah?
that was
I
literally
did.
the first time I thought that the Celtics might have a much tougher go of this than I thought. I thought they'd win in 5 or 6, but when Bobby said that the Knicks would sweep,
I
I'm like, oh
just-
god.
And
They
you
just
watch
swept
those
out.
first 2 games. They're dominating. They're taking advantage of all those guys the way they did during the regular season. You're up 20 plus in those games, and you're like, all right, here we go. They're gonna roll through this team. And the way they just played with the game, and for whoever's fault it was, we can stack up the blame pie all night. To me, those first 2 games, if you just take care of even one of those, I think you win this series. And to do it once is one thing. To do it 2 days later when you know all the things you did wrong, and it was different things in game 2, obviously, but this was just such an affront to me because I'll pull a John here. I don't think I was wrong. I think they screwed it up.
Right.
Royally.
They
We
made
watched
you wrong.
Play out.
It wasn't
They were
me.
up-
It's
getting worse.
They were up big in 3 games. And that's why I
The
can't
key
do
is
No,
to
you
never
weren't-
pick a sweep. You never
Bobby,
want to pick a sweep.
Bobby, it's the
That's-
reverse. I'll
that's
put it
true.
this way. It's the reverse of my Pacers Celtics will go 7 last year. I thought the Pacers would be tough, and they were. It was a ridiculously tough series, but it ended in a sweep. And so,
Right.
like in this case, the Celtics absolutely should have probably run them out of the building, and they didn't. And it's insane that they didn't, even with their injuries. So yeah, they should have.
They
all of
switched
us
up their
show-
defense. Though,
all of
back
us
to the
put
tip
it this way,
stuff.
Bobby. Here, I'm gonna defend you a little. All of us saying it's a ridiculous take, like the Knicks sucked, and the Celtics just sucked worst and got
Right.
hurt, and there was nothing you could do about it. Nobody saw KP dropping to a 0, and nobody saw the 2 20-point leads getting blown. This should have been a 5-game series, and
Right.
it wouldn't have been a ridiculously bad prediction. It just wasn't. So I don't.
But I'll
think that
take
this-
it.
Bobby, I think in all of your takes, this one's nowhere near the worst take.
Well, you know what really
Bobby,
makes me
don't be
mad
so hard on
about it?
yourself.
Don't be
I
so hard
mean-
on yourself. You've said much dumber shit.
Yeah, your career
I-
ended with takes way earlier.
Tristan Thompson, maybe that one was worse. But yeah, I mean, I watched every minute of every Celtics Knicks game during the year, and I didn't see a glimpse of what we saw in the series, which, to defend Tibbs, as we did earlier a little bit, I thought he was amazing in that series and switched a lot of stuff up and really, just shocked the Celtics
Okay.
with some of the adjustments he made.
All right, and we're gonna do a couple more here. We're throwing this one out here. Noah, Jaylen Brown is learning to play through his injury.
Ooh.
She took the bait. She took the bait and swam
Okay.
with it.
I'm going to defend myself here.
Okay.
You have,
You have the floor,
Okay,
counselor.
he's learning to play
is there
differently.
more context here? Like, what does this mean? He's learning to. That's
Well,
what he's
look,
doing.
I mean, the company line that they fed us was that Jaylen Brown, he's
End of the regular
couldn't-
season, he should have been resting. He was
he can't
playing
benefit
clearly
from
hurt.
rest. He's learning to play through it because he's going to need to play through it, and he needs to play 15 games down the stretch to be able to learn to play through an injury. And some people bought it. Some people thought it was. Some people didn't.
Some people had never heard that in their lives and couldn't figure out what it meant.
Okay, I'm not ready to apologize for this one.
What are you
You
waiting
didn't tell me
for?
this is gonna be on here. No,
He literally
okay.
told you last week that he's resting because he's trying to get back.
Well, he might get surgery. He might not.
Right, but either way, he's resting it.
He's hoping rest and rehab takes
Yeah.
care of the problem.
Right.
So your point, John, is that he should have been like I should apologize
My
for
point
not
was
saying
that
that he
this
should have
was a-
been resting.
I
better
believe-
apologize.
And I'll
This
take
is an
this one to my
apology,
grave.
Dan. This is
I
just-
believe this was the most nonsensical rationale for why he was playing. I think it was clearly the 65 games. I think he realized it wasn't going to
Wait
happen.
a second, John.
Hold-
You didn't believe that at the time.
I went back and the further he went with it while playing
It
ineffectively,
became more and more
it
apparent.
became apparent. I didn't believe that he would do that, and then I was watching it. I'm like, this is insane. So I was left with no choice but to. But yeah, Bobby, you were on it from the get-go. It's like, it has to be that. I just believe that this was. I believe that the Celtics went out of their way to let Jalen do what Jalen wanted to do, and this was the rationale they came up with. I just don't believe it was honest.
I think Joe said as much at one point. Like, it's
Wait,
important.
Noah's
for him to
defending.
Yeah.
Noah's defending the take.
Listen, one thing I'll say is when I was talking to Jalen last weekend, there was like a moment where I was almost going to be like, listen, my coworkers and I have been having this debate for months. Like, can you please just off the record tell me? And I was like, I'm not going to do it. But I was genuinely like, I still don't think we know, because if you saw him in game 5, the version that he played in game 5, and I've rewatched that game, he played like a great game. And he was playing this. It was like not his explosive self. Like, it was this more slow mechanical version that it was similar to kind of like when we saw good flashes from him down the stretch.
Didn't he shoot well too after the injury?
He shot well after the injury. So I still don't think that it's necessarily correct that he should have been resting for the month of March and then he would have been better off in the playoffs. Like, I just don't know that we know that. This injury is so freaking weird. Like, why hasn't he had surgery yet? Is he gonna have surgery? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I find that I'm happy to apologize for this one, because obviously he didn't end up playing great for this postseason run. Like, it was not a great playoff run for him.
But do you
no, I don't.
No, do you believe that he was learning to play through his injury?
Yes. I believe that he didn't think there was upside to resting for his injury. Like, he thought, I'm going to keep playing. I'm going to stay in rhythm. I'm going to figure out how to play through this thing. This might be a longer term thing. And maybe he was wrong to think that. Like, maybe somebody should have said, Jalen, like, this is actually not worth the whatever. But my whole thinking the whole time is that if somebody said to him, Jalen Brown, you have to rest for 5 weeks or you are going to be screwed for the playoffs, that he would have done it. Like, that's what my rationale was the whole time. And I don't think that conversation ever happened. Like, if there's reporting that comes out that somebody told him, like, you actually need a month off, like, that's the only thing that's going to help you here, or that's going to substantially help you, then I'd say, okay, like, that's what this debate was about initially.
Mm-hmm. Okay. John, you're muted.
John, you're muted. And I have a feeling
Yeah.
I might want to keep it that way.
One way to look at you probably do. One way to look at it, Noah, is that you can't. Yeah, I think you absolutely can say we don't, and they might not definitively have known whether rest would have helped. However, I'm looking at it the other way,
Rest
which is
can never hurt.
Which is, one, it can't hurt, and two, you cannot tell me that actually they believe that he needed that much game time to learn to play through it. Like,
remember the Knicks game? He had a
it
bang
was
out of
multiple games. He's playing over and over for a month and a half, learning to play with discomfort. You don't need 15 games to learn to play with a sore knee. So the fact that he kept playing is, to me, where I call BS on this, because I could have said, if he came back not fully ready, but knowing that, hey, this is as good as it's going to be, played 3 out of 4 games, 3 out of 5 games to close the season, just to get used to how he felt with it, be like, okay, he's feeling it out. But he just kept playing and playing and playing. So obviously, again, the natural conclusion was he was playing for a reason and
now
trying
he's
to reach
resting.
a goal.
Yeah,
and now he's resting. So that's the thing. I don't know if rest would have helped, but I've never heard of a case of rest hurting. And if he truly was trying to learn to play with it, I don't think he needed to play that much in obvious discomfort. It just didn't make sense. So that's what bugs me about it there.
Yeah.
We can't definitively say it would have helped, but the fact that he just kept doing it over and over and over again, it makes you wonder whether he would have benefited from it, because I certainly don't think he needed to do what he did there. We're gonna end with Bobby.
You could have had a worse playoff run than he had, though. That's all I'm saying.
I thought I was done.
No, Bobby, because as I said, your worst take is certainly not.
You're never done, Bobby.
Luke could get $20 million this offseason.
Wait a second.
Ooh. Ooh.
Are we talking 20 million a year or 20 million total?
20 million a year.
Okay, that's probably not happening.
But it's not too late. You still have a chance.
Wait, no, you weren't here when I said that.
Oh God,
It was.
we were all there,
I was
and
sitting
we
next
kept
to you.
we've said
We were
it
all
over
there
and
and
over.
wanted to be. We all wanted to disappear. And then,
I remember
Yeah.
exactly where I was when you said that. I was sitting right next to you at TD Garden.
well, I'll
okay.
remember that night.
I guess I
Yeah.
did say it then.
It's all coming back to me
You know what?
now.
This is one of those ones where the sentiment is fair. The
He might.
details.
Hey, we don't know what he's
not.
gonna get.
Yeah, right. It just takes one.
It's not gonna be 20 million.
Oh man. Where what happens to Luke? Do you have any idea, Bobby?
I think 20 million total. I'm still convinced he's back. I'm still convinced the team can string together something long term using his bird
Thank you,
rights
Taylor.
that
Yeah.
can have him back in Boston next year. I'm less convinced than ever that Horford's going to be back, just the way things are stacking up. But that's just my gut feeling right now.
Mhm.
I think it makes a lot of sense to bring Luke back because he's one of the guys when Tatum returns in a couple years who you can feel good about pairing with him in that next version of this team. But if he gets a 3-year deal with substantial mid-level salary, which I don't know who's out there who could potentially offer that for him, it'd have to be someone, I think Sherrod, you mentioned, that sees him as a starting center. That's where you probably lose him. I think anything else you can probably convince him with 20 million total, not per year, to come back.
20 million
get him to
over
come back.
10 years.
20 over, yeah, long time.
All right. I would listen. I would take Luke back as in a backup role. Sure. Why the heck not?
And we can make a T-shirt, Jimmy. Deal?
If they bring Luke back, we'll print the T-shirts for you.
Let's go.
While we're here, can anybody think of anything we've left out here that deserves to be scrutinized, or a person who needs to be skewered,
Let me
or
see.
a take that we absolutely, and Chad, I'll ask you guys, anything we're missing here? We tried to come up with the best we could.
That's a good
So
question.
I had a couple more. Sherrod had Celtics at 70 wins.
Okay.
How many did they have?
That would have been fun.
50.
61.
61.
We got
like
the
that.
Springer game, and I'll alleviate Noah on this one.
I didn't want to too many Noahs. I did leave the Springer out.
I'm gonna take the heat off Noah for this one because when that happened,
And
I
Bobby
said
did say
this is the start of something special for Springer here. This is
You
a
were so
turning
sick
point.
though. Do you remember how sick you were?
I was deathly ill. Maybe I was
Yeah.
delirious.
You
Wait.
were like actually delirious. I remember.
Speaking of Springer, John, you might not want to bring this one up either, but this is a victory lap for me and you, I think, or at least me.
I'll
You-
take an L. I said Shireman can impact the playoffs potentially. Not quite.
Not quite.
And Noah,
It's
can I
hard
pick
with
on you
those,
one more
though.
time?
Yeah, but I do want to say it's hard with those like the Torrey Craig will impact the playoffs because it's not that they couldn't have impacted the team. It's that they never got the chance to. Like I still
never
think
got the
Shireman
chance
might have.
to.
So it's hard to know. It's like we should have figured that Joe wouldn't play any of those guys, but like I understand where people were coming from. But yes, pick on me more.
One more
I
time.
have. Go.
Lonnie Walker.
You too.
so.
Bobby.
We were all
You
over
have-
the board.
We were all.
Only one of us had a stand-up interview with Lonnie Walker, and it wasn't me.
We're all.
That
over
doesn't
the
mean I
map on
believed in
Lonnie
him.
Walker because
You
Noah,
believed in
for
him.
example, Noah.
You
who
should
was-
have.
Noah was
I
saying
was
it's not going to
saying
make a
he won't
difference.
Necessarily
Predicted he
make
would
the
make
team.
an impact and start X amount of games, and that was a correct bold prediction that she had made. I said he was going to score double-digit points for a contender, even took it one step further. But Noah, in her bold predictions, wrote that Lonnie Walker is going to start a bunch of games for a team, and he did. He started
And he
For
did.
Philly.
however many for the
Did he?
Sixers.
However,
Yes, he did.
Well, the Sixers also were down to like 5 dudes. Like,
However, I will say this.
Oh,
Noah
you
and
got out on
Bobby-
the loophole.
Noah and Bobby
Thank you,
were
John.
both wrong on Lonnie Walker because they didn't want the Celtics to bring him. They didn't want him to stay in the Celtics. They wanted some other end of
J.D.
the
Davison.
bench guy that was going to do nothing for them. But I think it was me and John who wanted Lonnie Walker and tried to make the case saying they need backup, a backup
Scoring.
scoring, wing, swing, whatever you want to call him, off the bench. And sure enough, they did. The bench was a complete zero for the Celtics, and they could have used him, especially when their guys
He
started to go
wasn't an
down left
efficient
and right.
scorer, though.
Who cares?
not at all.
He just
He
comes
just-
off the bench and can
What's-
give you something, though.
I think he
They'll
didn't
always
pan out
be.
to who we thought he was going to be. Like, I think he's just not the guy that we thought he was.
He's not that guy.
I wish he was.
Yeah. He would have
He's
had a
the guy,
Torrey
not
Craig
that guy.
level. Torrey Craig level impact.
No,
Like,
I think
again.
it would have been higher than that.
I don't know
You can
about
put
that
it in
one.
for next year.
That's the thing is like
I want him on the
would've-
team.
I believed it,
Bring him back.
and I was surprised how little not only the Celtics cared to try to keep him around, but how little every other team cared to try and go get him. So
Well, that's
Yeah.
what
it's
I
o-
stressed at the
it's
time. Like,
obvious everybody thought differently. Because when he first signed, we're all like, that's not bad. And then
Right.
quickly it was like, there's
Yep.
chances are he's not going to make the team. We're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. So the perception of him around the league is totally different than what I thought it was.
yeah, and I probably lean keep him around, but I just had that sense he wasn't
He'll-
going to make it, and then
huge
he
for them
never
next year.
returned until later.
Lonnie Walker could average 14 points a game on next year's Celtics. So you never know what that's going to look like. So,
Give him another tryout.
but we did spend an inordinate amount of time on Lonnie Walker. We did all
Why
of us.
not?
So,
That's the fun
The
of it.
fans
though.
were interested.
There were
well,
no
the
new
team,
players.
the roster was set. There was no offseason.
Yeah.
There was nothing to talk about. There, we got a couple of super chats before we go. Nate just throwing $2 down because why the hell
Thanks,
not?
Nate.
Thank you, Nate.
Thanks, Nate.
Ryan Smitty, thank you. John, 2 inexcusable. Oh, this was about the Joe. 2 inexcusable exits and 1 win that was against a degraded field of opponents. Like the late great Meatloaf once saying, 1 out of 3 ain't good. I don't think that's how it went.
Yeah, it's close though.
It's close.
2 out of
It's
3
the
ain't
It's the inverse. It's the
Yeah.
inverse. Yeah. Of that. So yeah, that was on our Joe Mazzulla sort of situation. Honestly, guys, I'm gonna say as a collective unit, we weren't that
We
horribly
did a good
wrong
job.
Not
about a
bad.
ton of things. We did
If you
okay.
talk-
we've been
If you
we've been
talk
a lot
100,
wronger. Yeah.
if you talk 100 plus times per year like we do, there's going to be a lot of wrong things said.
I'm surprised when I
absolutely.
was going through it, both in the bold predictions, they weren't ridiculously off.
I
And
think we need to be bolder next year.
and in
I
our
think next year,
takes,
it's going to be a
more
wilder.
wrong, Jimmy.
oh God,
I-
next year
Next year is who the hell knows? I mean, we're all going to be wrong about everything. I'm sure.
I'm gonna say some shit. Yeah. Nate throwing one in here.
Or
Lonnie will
even
be
bold,
that
I
guy.
should say. Yeah, and Yang Shui.
Jiangsu.
Yang
Young
Shu.
Young Jew.
Thank you guys for contributing here on the super chats. Again, this was just a little throwaway fun show where we get to kind of poke fun of ourselves. We might have other kind of one-offs like this, in addition to something we're cooking up right now. And Bobby, we don't have a graphic for it, but Bobby, why don't you tell them what we have coming up on Thursday?
Ooh.
We are going to be welcoming Baylor Shireman onto the Garden Report
Let's go.
for an interview. Got in touch with his parents. They love the show.
Can Baylor come
And-
out and play?
And Bailey's going to join us.
They'll be sitting next to him, making sure.
And by
that
the way,
they-
when we
Ma,
stack up, when
the
we
Garden
stack up,
Report.
who's most likely to be back next year? And don't let this be something I'm wrong about. I think Baylor's right up there with the most likely guys to be back next year.
Bobby,
just 'cause
now
of
I
the
think he's
situation.
gonna
Oh,
Knock
God.
on wood. Knock on wood right now.
Oh.
And so long, Baylor Shireman.
He's not coming on the show.
No, come on. I'm right about some stuff. This one I feel good about.
What are
So
you
we
gonna
asked
ask?
Lemon earlier about how your feeling is the same as Charles Barkley's guarantee, and I realized that that's kind of what it is.
Well, he'll be on. Hopefully, it's not the last time.
Bobby
we see him.
gets
I
a
don't
lot
think
of Barkley comparisons in the chat.
Bobby, what do
Really?
you
For my game?
Not for your game, maybe your
No.
golf game, but no, for your
Bobby
predictions.
had a great game on Friday.
Oh, want to tell them, Noah?
I did. Bobby had a great game on Friday.
Basketball.
A
Wanna
great
hear
game
it
of
again.
basketball on Friday.
Against, I think I impressed none other than my matchup, Christian Megliola from the Celtics, who I was going one-on-one against for a lot of that
Yeah,
game.
he's
so-
50.
Wow. A real
Fair.
uh,
But
crazy
But-
matchup there.
I had to show out playing against
Where-
it. I'm
where'd you
not
play?
saying- we played in Dorchester. At the
That's weird.
Boys
My
Girls
phone
Club.
must have been off or something. I didn't get the
You want to
call.
come Friday, Jimmy? I'll pick you up.
I'm gonna be in Barcelona on Friday.
Oh, I got some
No, say it right,
recommendations here.
Bob. Say it right, Jimmy.
Barcelona.
Barcelona.
There you
Barcelona.
go.
Yeah, if you have any tips for me, send them my way. I've never been before and I have no idea what to expect. So
Just eat everything.
yeah, I'll do that.
And everything
Eat-
shuts down
eat the
for
table.
a couple hours.
Party until 6 in the morning, probably. All this stuff.
Oh, Jimmy's about to
But then
party.
I don't want to come back and play basketball with you guys. How about that?
All right, deal.
We're still going to do
this.
this. I still want to do the CLNS Invitational in September. I've had that concept in my mind.
Yeah, you have.
That'd be so fun.
I have an idea for it and how we're going to break up teams throughout the media, and it's going to be a media tournament. And I want to do it for charity. But anyway, we'll get there. We'll get there when we get there.
I'm running point.
Yeah. We're positionless.
No, you're going to want to be on my team. I never lose in anything, and I'm not going to start the media game. That is a fact.
I'll be your teammate.
I don't lose.
It's going to be a CLNS team. Okay, we're stuck with each other. There's nothing we can do.
We're on
Starting 5 right here.
We're going to go against our media outlets.
I don't know.
Oh, you're afraid?
Okay. Noah's our shooting guard.
Well, I've only seen Bobby play. I haven't seen anybody else play.
Oh, so you have a bad interpretation of our games? Is that what you're saying?
No. I mean, you guys are not related to one another. You know.
She has no scouting report. She has no scouting report, Bobby.
What's Bobby's scouting report according to you? Like from what you've seen, Noah? We've seen
video.
We've seen some shit.
I've seen some.
That was a long time ago.
I would say great rebounder. Like my dad was playing with us last weekend, and I told my dad right away, he crashes the glass, box him out.
That guy's unreal.
He didn't box him out. The next thing you know, he had 2 offensive rebounds, and I was like, Dad, come on. So that would be his best thing.
Okay, he picks up the trash. Okay.
I'm a hustle energy player. Brandon Bass says.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't
Brandon
shoot it,
Bass.
basically.
Shoot the
We've
mid
seen
the
range.
free throw line.
Take your
I
time
hit
at
two-
the free
The
throw
I hit
line.
two
backboard
game
does not
winners.
like it when Bobby shoots.
No.
I hit 2 game
more
winners in that
mid-range.
game last Friday.
So like a Brandon Bass works, you know.
Yeah,
Okay.
accurate.
I like it. All right, so that's where we're at. Thank you guys for hanging out on a kind of sleepy Tuesday with not much going on, but this was a fun.
Oh,
What?
we lost him. I wonder if he just lost.
Frank?
Here's the thing. I'm not logged into the back end, so I can't end the show for us. Who is logged into the back end?
I am. I can end it.
You
I
are?
feel like he's gonna come back. I feel like he's gonna come back.
Oh, he's back. Joe, we thought
There's a swipe function sometimes where you just swipe right off the screen.
Oh my
just
god!
gone.
I thought your battery died. And I was gonna have to end the show.
No. I just literally just kind of wipe what gone. Who can end the show? We're stuck here forever.
We're just a floating ship.
Let us out. Let us out.
We're prisoners of our bad takes forever.
Yeah.
So again, thank you
God.
guys for hanging out. We will follow all of our socials here. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You'll be notified when we do something else live. But we do have Baylor Shireman coming up on Thursday for sure, which that should be a lot of fun. There's a ton of other stuff on the channel as well, with Noah continuing on with You Got Boston, Sherrod and Gary Washburn dropping the Big 3 podcast, and just tons of other stuff. And again, it's going to get really interesting really, really soon. In the meantime, we've got the NBA Finals coming, so we'll be following the storylines along with that and any sort of Celtics news as it comes to you. And if there's certainly any sort of breaking news, we will jump on a stream and talk about it right away. Otherwise, we'll just be kind of popping up here and there during the off season, just doing our little thing and chatting. And it's always fun having you guys along with us. So we will see you hopefully on Thursday when we talk with Baylor Shireman.
Baylor.
No one's sneaking a vegan brownie by me, I'll tell you that.
Okay, you know what, John? We're gonna do it.
You have to feel that way too, Bobby.
I have to feel that way. Let's
Yeah.
fly out over and make Luke your first center.
Bobby, we gave you Luke hour early. We are not going to end this on a damn conversation about Luke